So 4 years ago, I was your typical student in 8th grade. I go to school, stay up late procrastinating on an essay, play video games, and really I didn't care about anything else but wanting to get more free time. I didn't care about how I could make a change in society, how I could make a positive impact on society, and I didn't really want to learn how to either. Now, if you tell me that in 4 years I'd be running a global nonprofit in the educational space to building an AI model to predict drug toxicity, I would say, sorry, you got the wrong guy. Hi everyone, I'm Caleb, and I didn't come here to list my resume today. I came here because I want to share with you all a personal shift in my perspective throughout my journey. The world is changing as we rapidly speak right now, and it's developing quick. We went from horseback riding and boat paddling to inventing things like rocket ships, engines, submarines, and so much more. We even have the capability to colonize both the moon and Mars now. Now, this all sounds impressive, but humans have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, and we've only started to kick things off since the Industrial Revolution. In fact, just last month, our population hit 8 billion people on planet Earth. Now, 8 billion people sounds a lot, but there are actually less than 0.01% of that population driving the change that we need in society. One of the most memorable takeaways that I remember from my 8th grade teacher is that the world needs 3 types of people. The first type, you need innovators of your future. So those would be your visualizers. And the second type, you would need the planners of the future. And the third type, the executors of the future. So if you look at a school project or something similar, the visualizers, they would be the one that would be actually brainstorming the idea. The planners, they would look at things like brainstorming pricing and material. And the executors, well, they'd just be the ones that would put together the entire school project. So as of right now in the status quo, you can almost think of it as a pyramid structure where we have the most amount of executors, but the least amount of visualizers. Now that doesn't make sense to me because that means we're not utilizing full human capacity. That means that there are so few ideas that even that we have so many executors out there, we're not able to work on those ideas. So imagine a game of shooting darts. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. The more darts you have, the more likely you are to hit that center of the target. Now imagine that center of the target as the world's biggest problem. So I'm talking cancer, global warming, or climate change. We would have a much better chance of hitting that target if we had more visualizers and innovators out there in society. So what is this blockade, this imaginary blockade that's hindering people from brainstorming, innovating, and creatively expressing their ideas? Let's talk about all the outliers that we know. I'm talking Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, or any other crazy tech billionaire that's changing the way our lives work. But the problem is, why are they outliers? Why can't we condition the average population to be able to do the same things? And that's because we are bred with skills and teachings at a young age that don't encourage creativity. And in turn, this creates a stigma that the status quo is hard to disrupt because students have never been exposed to a larger paradigm. Now, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. When you look at breakthroughs in any industry, so for example, you have Amazon, who is inventing the retail of the online space. You have Google, who wanted to find information quicker. You have Starlink, who wanted to offer fast-speed internet access to remote places like the desert, jungle, or even the ocean. What do all of these have in common? Well, their founders, over a decade or two ago, they saw an untapped problem, and they took a risk, and they solved it. Now, don't get me wrong, achieving what any of these companies are today, it's not easy to do. In fact, it's pretty hard to do. But it's a lot easier than the average person would think if you break things down one thing at a time using things like first principles. Now, why did I bring all that up? Well, that's because the same thing is happening right now. There are so many exponential technologies that so few have even heard of. I'm talking artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum computing, synthetic biology, nuclear fusion. The list goes on forever. But instead of having so few people working on them, why can't we have the average teenager work about them, think about them, and even contribute to society as a whole? That's because there's a sense of fear, unimportance, and collectivism. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at 2 monkeys. So you can imagine a monkey tribe in a jungle. Let's call one monkey Carl, and let's call the other one Mike. Carl's in his 50s, and he's curious of ways he can improve his tribe's living quality. So whether that be building a new banana plantation or building a new architecture to shield the tribe from the natural elements or XYZ. But the problem is that Carl has been doing this over and over again. He lacks originality, creativity, and innovation. That's why he's been encountering the same problems over and over again. But on the other hand, you have Mike, who is very young. His perspective and mindset is very fresh and unique. It's not dulled down. It's very sharp, actually. But instead of using that to optimize his tribe's living quality and survivability, he's spending it to play a game of tag with other monkeys. Now, why is he doing that? Well, 6 months ago, I learned a pretty cool concept from my IB teacher. It's called Plato's Allegory of the Cave. So you can almost imagine where there are 3 prisoners who have been chained to a cave their entire lives. And the only reality that they've ever perceived is shadow puppets and a fire that's cast before them. Eventually, one prisoner is able to break free, and he's able to actually see the outside world for the first time. So now that he's seen the outside world, that's his new updated version of what reality is, instead of just what the cave inside was. But he knows that if he tells the same information and tries to convey it to the other 2 prisoners who are still stuck in the cave, they wouldn't believe him because, 1, they've never seen it. They've never actually seen the outside world. And 2, they're still stuck in the cave. Now, likewise for Mike the monkey here, his entire existence had been confined to only do conventional things. What do I mean by conventional? I mean that he instinctively tries to do what the majority is doing and trying to fit into the majority. So whether that be doing a school routine or homework, the human default of thinking is habituated to a sense of mediocrity. And in turn, these conventional things eventually spiral down into a sense of unimportance. And likewise for Mike the monkey here, he thinks he's not able to contribute to a cause that large, or it can also be collectivism where he thinks that there will always be another monkey that's supposed to do what he was supposed to do originally. Or it can also be that young people nowadays that they don't think they can contribute to society because they lack perspective and knowledge. But what they bring to the table is so much better because their minds aren't dulled down. Now, I want to bring your attention to a study that was conducted in 1968 for 1,600 children in over 2 decades. The purpose of this test was to essentially test their creativity levels and see how they would be able to work around a problem and go around things differently. Now, the same test was done to them at 5 years old, 10 years old, and then eventually 15 years old. And here are the results. At 5 years old, not surprisingly, their creativity levels were 98%. I mean, that's not surprising. They just came out the womb. At 10 years old, the number drops down significantly, down to 30%. At 15 years old, the number drops even more down to 12%. So just within 10 years of range, the number drops from 98% to 12%. Now, I'm not done because the test was conducted for over 280,000 adults at the average age of 31 years old. Now, this one's more surprising because the creativity levels were actually 2%. Now, this brings me back to full circle on why it is important that students and both people and humans in general aren't conditioned the way they are right now. In school, you have students who are studying English classes and old literature like Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet, and eventually their minds dull down over time. But why can't we have students learn about the future instead? Learning about exponential technologies like the examples I listed and how they can utilize that to make a digital footprint on the world, make a positive impact on the world. Why can't they learn about mindset classes like utilizing things like serendipity, bias towards action, and learning about unconventionality to be able to make an impact in society? And so the detrimental effects of exploring the past instead of the future is so harmful to us. And so we're not training people to think big. We're clamping them down into an ossified version of what's considered important. Now, a year ago, I was lucky enough to join a human accelerator program called the Knowledge Society. And inside this program, you can basically think of people that you would call tech superheroes. These were teenagers that were working on problems using blockchain technology to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. These were people utilizing AI to cure breast cancer. These were people growing lab-grown meat to help reduce carbon emissions in cellular agriculture, and XYZ. Now imagine, I went in the first day that day, and I remember myself saying, how would I be able to do this? You know, it's crazy that I'm enrolling in this program myself. I don't have the IQ as Albert Einstein. I don't think I would be able to make an impact. But after a year later, I was able to do some pretty cool things, including interning at Walmart Canada's first innovation incubator, to traveling to Miami to attend a blockchain conference, to consulting for companies like XPRIZE and BenchSci on offering tech solutions. And throughout my short 17 years of life so far, I've been through so much of the educational system, from public schools to private schools, to now even the IB program and Catholic schools. I realized the importance of mindset. You don't need to have the same IQ as Albert Einstein to be able to activate things like climate change solutions. What most people don't understand is that the recipe for success is that replacing your current stigma right now with a better and more positive mindset, utilizing different mindset tools like the ones I mentioned, combined with intention and ambition, anyone can make an impact. And so the point I'm trying to get across is that the domain of innovation is rooted into the way we think. Us human beings, we're naturally curious of the world. We're curious, but at a young age, that curiosity is dulled down. But even so, with so much curiosity, we're not able to do much unless we're able to crack down on our mindset and on our current stigma right now. Because that's how insulin was invented. We had students who were curious about how the pancreas affected digestion, and then they bumped into insulin by accident and they were able to solve it. So back to my original example of using darts. Knowing that whether you are able to contribute or not, even if you try, you're attempting to bring us one step closer to accelerating our solutions on global problems, and that you're able to make an impact in society. So I want to end this off by quoting from Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs once said that when you grow up, you tend to get told the world is the way it is, and that your life is to just live your life inside that world. But that's a very limited life. Try not to bash into the walls too much. Save some money, have some fun. But life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, that everything around you that you once called life was invented by people that were no smarter than you. You can influence it, and you can build something that other people will use. And once you discover that, life will never be the same again. So let's utilize our young people's potential. Let's utilize our full human capacity to be able to rejuvenate our future. Let's be able to accelerate and crack down on innovation to be able to solve so many global problems that are in the world right now. And let's break the stigma, change your mindset, and make an impact. Thank you.